for joining me today. This is the first time I do a webinar on this particular topic. I'm really excited that we're having so many different areas of the country represented because we're all in our unique little markets. But I'm just going to go ahead and just dive right in and explain what the goal is for today. A little bit about myself. My name is Tony Martinez. I am a licensed Florida real estate broker. So everything that I talk about today, I'm talking about it from in the trenches, from that perspective. I've been teaching and training agents for a very long time, too long, I think. I'm also currently an accelerated breakthrough coach, which I love teaching and coaching agents. It's just a passion of mine. A master short sale instructor. For those of you that have been around a while and you were here during the great debacle of 2008, I traveled the country teaching short sales for an amazing organization that had the #1 short sale course in the country. And I was so blessed and privileged to teach maybe between 8 or more thousand agents about short sales at that time. And then I settled down into becoming a broker, and I never lost the passion for teaching about short sales because I believe it's a wonderful niche. And that brings us to why I created Short Sale Mastery, because of the current situation. I always welcome feedback from agents that were around back in the day. But one of the challenges that we have right now is that we have a whole generation of agents that really are not familiar with what a short sale is and what's involved and everything else. So this is going to be different. This is going to be a different kind of scenario for you. So let's go ahead and talk about what my goals for the class are. First of all, are we going to have another wave of foreclosures? I'm going to go ahead and present some arguments, and you may or may not agree, but I'm just going to present some things that are going on right now, and either we agree or we agree to disagree. This is not about getting into an argument. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just going ahead and laying out some facts and explaining why I've chosen to be prepared, right? And that leads to the second part, and that is making the case for short sales. Short sales are an acquired taste. The typical real estate agent doesn't wake up in the morning and says, I cannot wait to go out there and engage in a short sale. Hey, look, it's not the case. And that comes from everything from past experience with short sales, maybe not a good past experience, to just maybe just myth, right? Talking to other agents and just anecdotal information. So I'm going to make my best argument that it's prudent to know about short sales anytime, right? But especially during this time. And then I'm going to take a huge risk, right? I'm going to take a huge risk. I'm going to attempt to entice you to take my short sale mastery course. And then the people right away say, oh my goodness, this guy is going to try to sell me something. Yeah, I'm a salesperson and proud of it. But you know what I've always learned? I felt that if I give you value in this next 45 minutes to an hour, and at the very end, I say, look, there's more if you want it, that you shouldn't be terribly upset at me, right? Especially if you stick with me to the end, I'm going to give you a very special deal. And I can tell you, I can promise you, it's going to be better than Ginsu knives. So let's go ahead and do the following. The end is near, right? I hear this all the time. Guys, I don't think the end is near, but we do have some troubling situations ahead. I'm just not I'm not a doom and gloom kind of person, but I'm very pragmatic. And that is why I'm preparing my offices and my 200 plus agents for what I believe is to come. But let's look at some things that are going around right now, and you tell me, right? Again, disclaimer, I am not an economist. I am not here trying to espouse this amazing knowledge that I have about the economy and what's going to happen. I'm just going to go ahead and talk about from a broker perspective, a real estate perspective, and then share the following, okay? The question I'm asked all the time, probably 10 times a day is another wave of foreclosures coming? Okay, so if you want to type in the chat area right now, where do you think you're already sold on the idea that there's something happening or not? So someone's saying, I'm having the same problem, but it looks to me like everybody is telling me that the connection seems to be fine. So sometimes it's an issue on your end. And in that case, I would go ahead and exit and come back in. So what are your thoughts? Do you want to chime in the chat room area? Do you think another wave of foreclosures is coming? Let's go ahead. Okay, Bill says yes. Michael Lewis says, yup, without a doubt. Okay, all right. Thinking 6 months out. Yes, yes, yes. So, all right, let's do this. Let's say someone's on the fence. Someone's not yet convinced. All right. Let's go ahead. A baby wave. Okay. I like that. I haven't seen it described that way. Let's take a look at what's going on right now. Unlike 2008, where real estate was the driver, real estate was the absolute driver of the recession. Okay. That is not the case right now. We all know where this is stemming from. This is stemming from COVID. Now, the key component is the unemployment rate. I mean, the bottom line is if you're not working, you're not going to pay your bills. You're not going to pay your mortgage. What is that number? All right. That number, okay. So I'm a broker. Sorry. Great. Absolutely. Guys, again, I'll go ahead and say from my end, and I won't say it again. But if everyone else is telling me that they're hearing me okay and you can't, it's on your end for sure. You got to check your features there. Make sure that you don't have it muted out or something else like that. I was doing some research yesterday on the unemployment rate, and the number varies from 18 million to 31 million. Now, how can it be that wide? Depends on who you believe, right? Let's say, for example, it's 18 million right now, but over 31 million are receiving some amount of benefits. So we have a ton of people that are unemployed. Are some states more affected than others? Without a doubt. Okay, is the news trending in the right direction? Well, just so happens that this morning, the job report came out for last week, and better news. We're finally below a million. First time below a million unemployment claims since March. So that is a positive thing. All right. Next, let's take a look at, this is what the article, I got it from a site called Marketplace, and it talked about, well, how many people are in fact out of work, and it's different analysts giving you different numbers. Next, all right, by state. Now you look at the different states here, and I know it's tough to read, it's small, but for example, Hawaii, you're represented here, 13.9% unemployment rate as of the end of July. All right, Colorado, you're at 10.5. Florida, we are at 10.4. So states that are having, that are more, what do you call it, tourist service oriented, we are being hit the worst. Okay, we have the highest. Look at Massachusetts, it's all the way up to 17.4%. So the key driver behind this issue right now is people are not working. Now, this is today. I go to Realty Track all the time. If you don't visit Realty Track, you should. I go into realtytrack.com, I go into stats and trends, and I take a look and see where is the top 5. Take a look at this. All right, this is for July. There are states represented here that yeah, I agree with you, Chris. The states represented here that I have never seen on this list, or have not seen on this list in a long time, in the top 5 position. South Carolina, Maine, New Mexico. Hey, California's in the house, right? You guys are number 5 on that list. Now, this is bearing in mind that a lot of foreclosures have yet to begun. This is just right now. Florida, my home state, all right, we were number 5 on this list pre-pandemic. Number 5. We're off that list completely. Does it mean that we don't have any issues? No, it just means that we're in a lockdown as far as moratoriums. Our moratorium on evictions and foreclosures here in Florida has been extended twice. It's now out through the end of August. The question is, what is going to happen when the dam breaks loose? But look at these states, folks. These numbers are real. These are absolutely real. Okay. Now, this one is amazing. Early stage mortgage delinquencies. Okay. 30 days late. Once it gets to 90 days late, it becomes a serious delinquency. Hits the highest level in 21 years. Highest level in 21 years. And when I share this article, people will ask me, well, that's factoring in all the forbearance ones, right? Well, no, if you read the article, It actually makes it sound like the forbearance ones are not being taken into account. Let me explain. What happens is when the CARES Act was passed, giving people the ability to go into forbearance, it gave them 6 months with the ability to extend for another 6 months. They're not supposed to be able to go ahead and report anything negative on the person's credit. All right. So I don't think it's reported. In fact, the article goes on to say these numbers are going to be vastly affected as the forbearances start to expire. What that doesn't keep in mind is the CARES Act only applies to government-sponsored loans, right? You got Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA. It has nothing to do with all the other folks there that have nothing to do with it. So those forbearance agreements, they may have been for 3 months. It may have been for 6 months. And then people talk about forbearance as though it's going to be okay at the very end. I don't think so. Okay, because here's the situation, right? You don't make your payments for the first 6 months, right? Then you extend it for another 6 months. What's going to happen at the end? The money's got to be repaid. And people say, well, the government's going to do all this and the government's going to do all that. Hey, listen, you got to have a job. You got to have a job in those situations. What I'll do, folks, this particular website, I'll share the links afterward. I'll send an email out for where these websites are so you guys can go ahead and get these sources for yourselves. I'm very concerned about the ones that did forbearance agreements with the non-government sponsored entity loans, that those might be for 3 months, it might be for 6 months, and then they're expecting at the end to go ahead and do a full balloon payment. It could get ugly. How about this one from CNBC Markets? The pandemic may cause 40 million Americans to lose their home. Okay, 40 million. Now, to what extent is going to be mortgages versus renters? But there's a lot of pain coming down the pike, folks. I think that most of us can be in agreement that a lot of folks are going to be in trouble as soon as the eviction moratoriums expire. So now, again, it's up to your state. Obviously, there are states that don't have any moratoriums in place and foreclosure filings are happening. In Florida, because I can speak from firsthand knowledge, it's been extended through August, but I can't see them continuing. It's like you can't just keep saying, guys, it's okay not to pay your bills. All right. I feel for everyone in that situation. Trust me, I do. But there are landlords right now that are not huge conglomerates and huge hedge funds and trust funds that can't make their payments either. They're going to be driven into foreclosure if they can't get that property rented to someone that's willing to pay. And sadly, there are people that can pay that are not paying. We know that. You have experienced this yourself. They can pay and are not paying, thinking that it's going to be okay, and you know it won't. So yes, in my humble opinion, there is another wave of foreclosures that will happen. The question is when. The question is timing. We're going to start seeing some of this between now and the end of the year, but I think all heck is going to break loose in the first and second quarter of 2021 for sure. Why? Because it is going to be when all of the things expire, okay? When it's expired. Now, the question was asked, is this being recorded? It's supposed to be recorded, okay? If it is, I will send it out to everyone that participated. It's just that I always have to give that, hopefully the connection was okay and nothing goes wrong with the program. All right, so question next, is it going to be as bad as 2008? I don't know. Listen, I've seen and heard from individuals that I have tremendous respect for, that I believe truly have their finger on the pulse of what's going on with the economy. And they're saying it's going to be worse. I don't know. See, I'm hoping and praying it's not going to be. Yes, there are factors that are working into our advantage. As I said before, this situation is not being driven by individuals that had adjustable rate mortgages, right? And all of a sudden their mortgages went from 700 to 17 and 2,700. I get that. But look what we don't know, what we can't control. Exactly. I don't have a crystal ball, so that all I can do is try to get my people to prepare. Okay, it's kind of like, why not be ready just in case? But the whole issue that we can't control is COVID. I mean, look how good we were feeling up to about a month ago. We were headed in the right direction. We had flattened the curve. Everything was seeming like it was coming together, and just boom, all of a sudden it just takes off again. Yeah. So why not be prepared, right? If you're prepared, then you're going to be ready. See, here's the thing that bothers me, and see if you can feel me on this, okay? Of all the things that went wrong in 2008, one of the things that was number one on the list is we had an entire industry that was absolutely clueless. An entire industry. Nobody knew what to do. They had no idea what a short sale was, how you engage, how you do it. All right, fast forward 10, 12 years. We're right back where we started again. Yeah, some of the old timers like me are still around, like Troy and a few of you that are still around that were then. But I got to believe that 60, 80% of you on the call right now, you weren't licensed back in the day. You've never done a short sale before. You are not ready. So again, no crystal ball here. Here's what I'm thinking. And then I'm asked this question. Okay. Yeah, Walter said 2008 was industry and this is different. We'll see, right? At the end, if you're not working and millions upon millions of Americans are not working, you're going to have a mortgage issue. The question then leads, work with me here, are we going to see another wave of short sales? Okay, here's my feeling. A lot of folks are going to have to sell. Unfortunately, a lot of folks are going to have to sell. The question becomes, will they be regular sales or will there be short sales? Hey, Michael, thank you. Yes, I was your teacher. I love it, buddy. Thank you. Let me explain. A short sale, you have to be underwater. And here's the biggest argument that I've been getting from people, right? I got into a little discussion with somebody on Facebook. It's not going to be as bad. There's a ton of equity. People are just going to sell and cash out. Okay. All right. Let me pose this argument to you. All right. What percentage of your market, because that's all that counts, what percentage of your market were FHA buyers? Are FHA buyers? How many are FHA buyers that bought in the last year? Let's say the last year. They bought top of the market. How much equity do they have going into that property? Only 3.5%, right? Let's face it. That's the minimum down. That's what they put down. How many missed payments will it take before someone is underwater? How many missed payments? Not many. So let's say property values don't drop. Something else that we have zero control over, and you can have your crystal ball, I'll have mine. Okay. The question becomes is how many people also have tapped into their equity? See, when the market was so good, people started repeating the same mistakes that we did back in the day. They started tapping the equity of their properties. You know this, right? The HELOCs, refinancing, cashing out. Are they putting the money back into their properties? No. Are they going out there? Some, a lot now. Are they going out there and getting second homes and everything like back in the day? Probably not. Are they getting plastic surgery? Yeah. Are they getting Corvettes because of midlife crises? Yes. All of these things are in place. So again, this time around, there's going to be people that are in the foreclosure process and have equity. And here's an opportunity for you. We got to talk about opportunities, right? Because as Sun Tzu says, in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. So what is that opportunity for you as a licensed real estate professional? How about this? An opportunity to serve. You have an opportunity to become so well versed at the options that somebody has to stay in their home that you can go ahead and point them in the right direction. Because to me, it's borderline criminal for someone to lose their home that didn't go ahead and look at all of the various options, right? Could they possibly reinstate the loan? Could they get into a forbearance or repayment? Can they refinance? Can they do a loan modification? Your first responsibility, I think your first duty is to say, let's make sure you've explored all of your options. Let's say it's past that. Then you're either looking at a property that has to be sold that either has equity or doesn't. If it has equity, God bless you. That's a regular sale. Get that puppy listed, get it sold, help those folks rent someplace else, but that becomes a regular sale. But what if it doesn't have any equity? Then we're looking at the potential for a short sale. And here's where I'm going to transition. I've made the argument that I sincerely believe that we are in for another wave of foreclosures. Now, let me make the case for short sales. For you veterans, sit tight because you know this. I'm preaching to the choir. For you newbies, let me make this argument. Let's say listings grew on a tree, right? Where is the sweetest fruit? The sweetest fruit's at the very top. They're called equity sales. We all want equity sales. A lot of you are brand new agents. I know this for a fact because I know you. All right. You walk up to that listing presentation, you stare up at that tree, and you're really not as prepared as you could be. Right. The second agent being interviewed shows up with a really long ladder because they've been doing it a little bit longer. The top agent in the three that are being interviewed shows up with a cherry picker and just scoops up that fruit before you even have a chance to say, hi, I'm with so-and-so Realty. This is just the reality of our business when it comes to regular sales. Here's what I've been preaching for the past 12 years. Short sales are the low-hanging fruit. Why are short sales the low-hanging fruit? Because a typical real estate agent avoids them like the plague for a variety of reasons. They either had a bad experience or they heard someone, cooler talk, right? So you can scoop up the fruit that everyone is leaving behind. Because let me tell you something, as good a persuader as I am at influencing individuals, there are individuals that will walk out of this broadcast and say, I will never touch a short sale in my life. That's okay. Send me the referral. Send someone else on this call the referral. Get 20-25% for doing absolutely nothing. The vast majority of real estate agents will not engage, no matter how bad it gets. That's just the way it is. So that's your opportunity. Let me just show some basics, okay? I want to give you some tidbits on what a short sale is and what it's not. Okay, the first thing you look for is, are you underwater? I ask this question all the time. Hey, what's the very first component you need to have? Okay, the very first component is you got to be in default. You got to be behind. I go, no. The very first component is you have to be underwater. Okay, so the reality is that they may not be underwater. I see some people posting here, you bought a short sale in 2010, now double in price. Yeah, there were some amazing deals back then. But we know right now that the way banks work is they want market price for their home. We're not the banks. Let me tell it to you this way, right? Back in the day, there were 5 clueless parties. There was a seller represented by an agent that were clueless, a buyer and a buyer's agent representing them that were clueless, and the bank in the middle that was clueless, right? 12 years later, 4 are still clueless for the most part. The banks, they know what they're doing. And the banks, they know what the price of the house is, what the house is worth, and that's what they want. In a short sale, you present the bank or banks with this amazing opportunity to lose a ton of money. Hey, I need you to go ahead and take this sale so you can go ahead and lose $50,000, $100,000. You think, well, why would they do that? Well, because you make a convincing argument that either take this and lose now or wait and lose more later. That's really what's in it for the bank. The bank knows they're going to lose. It's just a matter of mitigating that loss. So banks do short sales because it minimizes the amount that they lose. So first step is it needs to be underwater. I love the fact that a short sale is a relatively clean sale, right? You have a willing buyer, you have a willing seller, all the liens, everything is taken care of. You have title, you have good title. You don't have to worry, right? Next, why do a short sale? Foreclosure can't be that bad, right? Well, let's take a look at some of the consequences to a foreclosure. And this is not the full list, folks. This is just a short list. All right. Let's take a look about how it follows you for the rest of your life. And here's what I teach all my students. All right. Go ahead and commit these to memory. I'm going to have a Q&A session at the end, folks. So I'm going to get to a lot of your questions and everything. But commit these to memory because this is your arsenal. Dialogue is king. When you are sitting across the table from someone that's emotionally lost it, and look, they're losing their home. Some of you went through this yourself. I did. You know what's going on there. All right. You have to be the one voice of reason. You got to get them to think down the road. Do they want to ever be a buyer again in the future? Of course they do. Do they want to be an owner in the future? Absolutely. Well, listen, you're going to be ineligible for a government issued loan for 5 to 7 years. Only 3 years in the short sale. So here's my dialogue here, where I commit this to memory. Let me ask you, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, all right, when the time comes that you want to buy again, do you want to live with the restriction of not being able to buy for 5 to 7 years, or with the option of being able to buy again in as little as 3 years? They're going to go with that every time. Good, then a short sale is best for you. When you have a foreclosure, it's not only does it stay on your record for 10 years, but you'll always have to disclose on any mortgage application that you had a foreclosure, because it's going to ask you, have you ever had a foreclosure or deed in lieu? And it doesn't say in the past X number of years. It says, have you ever? You always have to answer yes. So it follows you forever. Credit scores are going to be significantly lowered. If I wanted to go on, I can talk about the impact it can have on your ability to get a job and keep a job. What if the job they have requires a security clearance? Do you know that many times a security clearance is threatened by a foreclosure or bankruptcy? So these are the things that you have to commit to memory. This is what I teach in my course, to make sure that you have 5, 6, 7 things that you can just whip out, arrows in your quiver to go ahead and say, yes, but have you given this? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Here's a big one. What you gonna do when they come for you? Well, what does that mean? And that is, in many states, because there's different states represented here, they're deficiency states. What does that mean? That means that after the foreclosure, after the short sale, the bank can come after you. And it could be for a number of years. What do you mean, come after me? Well, yeah, the bank lost a certain amount of money, right? They lost 50 grand, they lost 100,000, they lost more. They can sue you for that difference. In Florida, just as an example, it used to be 5 years. They had 5 years in Florida. Then HR 87 was passed, and it lowered it to 1 year. 1 year in the event of a foreclosure or deed in lieu, but the language never said anything about short sales. And whenever I bring that up at a class, I've had attorneys even shake their head and say, man, you're the only one that's ever caught that. You are absolutely right. So what does this mean? When you are negotiating a short sale, you have to make sure that it's not just about the bank saying, yes, we will do the short sale. We need to get the bank to waive the right to a deficiency. The bank or banks, you could have a first and you could have a second. Both of them require not just the negotiation of the approval of the short sale, but the waiver of deficiency. Now, I'm going to throw something at you that may be a little controversial. I can handle it. Under no circumstances, well, maybe one, okay, I do not believe that you as the real estate agent should be doing the negotiations. Absolutely not. Back then, we had to. We had to because nobody knew what they were doing. The agent had to take control. That was the only way it was going to get done. Fast forward, the people that are still in the negotiations business, the professional negotiators, they will forget more than you'll ever learn. Let them do it. Let them do it. Let me tell you from a broker's perspective, and this changed my thinking. When I put my name on the door and it's my butt on the line, I told my agents, absolutely not. You do not negotiate any short sales, because all it takes is for you to screw up and then we're all in trouble. And so unless you have been doing this for years and you know, okay, what you're doing inside and out, let the negotiator do it. In 99% of the cases, it doesn't cost the seller any money. The money that's being obtained for the negotiator, maybe they want $1,200, maybe they want $1,500, maybe they want $2,000. It varies from title company to attorney. It is usually either paid for by the bank or the buyer or a combination of the two. But this is what's going to get so many agents in trouble. When the deficiency is not negotiated and then they get sued for the difference. Not a good situation to be in. So is a short sale for everyone? Is it a get me out of my mortgage free card? Absolutely not. How do you find negotiators? Well, depending on your state, start with either a title company, okay, or an attorney. That's normally the place you would do it. They're the ones that are best apt. Okay, if you're a Florida one, I can introduce you to one or two immediately. Last short sale took 6 months, January to June. How long does it normally take? Here's the thing, Judy. There's different factors. Right now, the typical short sale should probably take no more than 2 to 3 months. When it takes longer, and again, I don't know your situation, many times it's the agents involved. Talk to any professional negotiator and say, where does your biggest stress come from? It comes from the agents. It comes from the agents either representing the seller or representing the buyer, not knowing what they're doing. Okay, I'm not saying that's the case with you. I'm saying that's what normally happens. 3 banks. There you go. That's your answer. That's an amazing one right there. All right, let's start with qualification number 1. There must be hardship. All right. And my definition of hardship is a material change that's taken place from the time that you obtained the mortgage until now that prevents you from paying it. Well, let's face it, right now, the number 1 is unemployment or underemployment, reduction in income. There's always going to be foreclosures. There's always going to be hardships. There's the list. Here's the thing. It must be legitimate. It must be verifiable. They don't just get to throw darts at a wall and find the one that works. Okay? They must do a hardship letter. This is critical. This is step number 1. Second one, there must be a monthly income shortfall. I want you to write this down. When you do a listing presentation, the best phrase you can use as you begin to explain this part is, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. They're going to be very direct. I need you to be as forthright as you can. Please understand that this is confidential. It's just between us. And secondly, please understand that I am in no way, shape, or form judging you. It's just I need to determine whether I can help you or not. And I can't help you unless I have all the facts. We need to determine if you are ready. 2 words, ideal candidate. We need to determine if you are an ideal candidate for a short sale. An ideal candidate has a hardship. An ideal candidate has a monthly income shortfall. That means now or soon, because you were given your pink slip. In 2 months, you won't have your job. In 2 months, you won't be married, be able to pay your bills because you have more at the end of the money. And they have to be willing to disclose everything. There's no hiding. You don't tell me and expect me not to tell the bank. I'm not going to jail for you. I have family members that I love that I won't go to jail for. I'm not going to go to jail for you. All right. Last but not least, insolvency. Insolvency is a fancy word for broke. They expect you to be broke, meaning you don't have funds. I like to ask the folks, hey, listen, if I go into your account right now, If I go into your checking account right now, will I see thousands of dollars? Oh, no. Will I see hundreds of dollars? No. What would I see? Tony, you're going to see a lot of lint. Okay, good answer. So what happens is you need an ideal candidate. Now, does it mean that if they don't have all three, I won't help them? Of course not. I'll give you an example. Let's say this person has a substantial IRA or 401k. They got $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in there. Well, the bank can't seize it. That's illegal. But the bank can certainly factor that into their decision. They're not an ideal candidate. They can pull 50 grand out, 100 grand out, cover the difference, and go on their way. This is the kind of person that I need to prepare for the possibility of a contribution. The bank may agree to do it, but they may have a contribution. Okay, the question has been asked. I will send out to everyone that participates, I will send out a PDF of the slides, not the PowerPoint, a PDF, and I will also send out the recording as long as it works, okay? So this is the case of you working with someone that's less than an ideal candidate. So I would say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you're not exactly an ideal candidate, but I believe in your situation, and I'm gonna move forward in helping you, okay? All right, folks, I'm telling you, I'm sorry you're having difficulties with your connection, but it's your connection, because everyone else is hearing fine, or my screen would be lit up right now, okay? Let's say, just based on what I've covered so far, and this is the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg, okay? You say, I want to learn to do short sales. My answer could be, well, contact your broker, but here's the problem, all right? I use this a lot in my marketing. It's a lot of brokers are not prepared to teach you about short sales. That's just a fact. So I joke around with this, but let's face it, typical real estate broker does not want their agents to engage in something that they can't support because they don't understand themselves. So then you say, well, I'll go to my board of realtors. Well, maybe where you're at, that's happening. It's not happening where I'm at. And oftentimes you don't really know what you're getting, as far as the stuff that's being taught. So that's why I created Short Sale Mastery. All right. I live this. This is something I just so passionate about. And I love that I've been able to do this now as a combination coaching and training, and I can do it 100% online. So here's what I've done. Okay, I created a course that is group coaching and training, 5 2-hour Zoom sessions for 5 consecutive weeks. All right, 10 hours of training. That's a lot of training time. But I give it to you in bite-sized pieces so that you're not overwhelmed. All right, at the end of each session, there are assignments that you need to do to be ready for the next one. All right, so the question about how many I have personally done, Andrew, I'll answer very directly right now. My thing is, I am a broker and instructor. Through my training and my offices, we've done a ton of short sales. I am a non-competing broker. I don't go out there and compete against my agents. My pedigree and my record is, if you ask the 10,000 agents that I've trained on whether I know my stuff or not, it's a given. All right. Now, here's the other thing I will go ahead and throw out. I've seen many great practitioners that suck at teaching, absolutely suck at teaching. They know their short sales in and out, but they can't convey it in a way that makes sense at all. Okay. The question is, what's the difference between your course, SFR? Well, listen, SFR has been around for a long time. SFR was created back in the day. I never thought much of it, to be honest with you. It didn't even come remotely close to the course that I was working for. And it's mostly from a buyer perspective. So I look at it like, it can't hurt to take it. But again, it really comes down to it. Thanks, Camille. I appreciate it so much. Here's the way it works. 5 sessions, 2 hours, take a break for a week. Now, I get it. What if I miss a class? What if I'm late? Every session is recorded. Every session is recorded, so there's no missed content. The day before each session, you get a link to download the workbook. I bring in guest panelists like a professional short sale negotiator so that you can ask her questions. She's in the trenches every single day. I bring on a foreclosure defense attorney so that you can quiz them and ask questions and everything else. And then you participate in our private group, because here's what I'm doing. Are you called the czar? I don't know about that. So um, the private Facebook group. No, I'm not. I call myself the guru. Okay, if or people call me a guru. The membership in our private Facebook group, I think, is critical because you guys can keep it going. You can keep the training going. You can ask questions in that environment. It's only fellow short sale mastery participants and alumni, and we can go ahead and get you, get those questions answered for you. Now, here's what else I cover. This is important. I convey this the right way. I'm going to cover A through Z, but I can't start at H. All right. I've been blessed to have some very, very experienced agents go through it. And I asked them from the very beginning, look, I got to start with the very, very basic. You got to stick with me. And oftentimes they come back and tell me, hey, listen, I totally forgot about that. That didn't make sense to me. Now I understand. We cover contracts and forms to a certain extent. Obviously, I can't get into contracts that are particular to states that I'm not involved in, but I do make suggestions or recommendations on additional forms and disclosures that you can and should be using to protect you and your brokerage. The key is to assemble a team. Who is going to be on that team? Who is going to be your negotiator, your title or closing agent? Who's going to be maybe your bankruptcy attorney, your paralegal, your credit repair, and foreclosure defense attorney? Okay. So the question that was asked, so if you were a CDP graduate, is this similar but updated class? Judy, here's the thing. I was a CDP instructor. I think Alex Sharfin and Judy Sharfin are the two most brilliant people in the industry. And it was my greatest source of pride that I had an opportunity to work for that movement. My approach, again, is very different. I'm not taking the approach of expending any energy on the issue of you doing the negotiations and everything else. My focus is on you becoming a short sale listing master. All right. Here's the thing. If you can become so powerful at walking into a listing presentation and getting 80 or 90% of them, all right, because let's face it, the listing presentation is going to happen in your office. If you're doing this the right way, you're not going to people's houses. They're coming to you. All right. And of course, we're going to get into all the issues of who pays the commission. How do you price it correctly? How do you buy yourself more time? Okay. Time is our biggest enemy. Let's face it. I always tell agents, when you take a short sale listing, you got one eye on the calendar because you have to know when the auction date is, when the sale date is. I'm going to teach you how to interview a short sale negotiator, what questions to ask, what documentation do they need, how do you select a foreclosure defense attorney. Here's something that I throw in as a bonus. You need to go ahead and know how to effectively work with short sale buyers, right? Because you may actually come across a scenario where you're representing a buyer. And tell me, for those of you that have been doing this a while, is there a least leveraged position or least powerful position than to be the agent representing the buyer in a short sale? Don't you often have to kind of take over? You have to kind of know what you're getting yourself into, right? Yeah. So I focus more on how do you get out there? How do you promote yourself? In fact, session 5, the concluding session, is really mostly about lead generation strategies. Let me give you one right now, a lead generation tip. Okay. And here's what I learned a long time ago. Depending on your state and depending on how long the process takes, okay, you, ready, need to focus on working backwards. What does that mean? Well, I'll give you an example. Florida. In Florida, the process can take a year, right? It doesn't take 2 and 3 years anymore. It can take 6 months to a year. The biggest two words, the biggest battle we have to convince someone to do a short sale is free rent. Free rent. Because if they've been in the system for a while, they're getting pretty comfortable with not making any mortgage payments. And you're coming into the equation basically saying, hey, I can help you get out of this mess. And they're asking, well, let me ask you something. If you help me get out of this mess, does that mean I have to move? Yeah, yeah, you're going to have to move. Well, if I have to move, don't I have to go ahead and start paying rent somewhere? I go, you would think, unless you're going to move in with mama. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, then I'm going to stay here for a while. So in areas where the process can be more delayed, here's what you do first. Ready? Start with properties that have a sale date first. That's the one you start, because they're the ones with the fewest amount of excuses, because they're out of time. They're out of time. Work backwards from there. People that are in Florida, you're going to go with who's been served or less pendants. So this is where you have to become very familiar with your own foreclosure process. I was asked the question, is this course to Florida or nationwide? A course is nationwide because short sales are the same nationwide. There is no Florida approach or New York approach to short sales. What differs is the foreclosure process. Some states are faster than others. Some states have redemption, others don't. I can't be your expert on your state when it comes to the foreclosure part. That's on you. My job is to teach you how to effectively list, sell, and get those short sales closed. Use whatever mapping service, tax service, I should say, is available in your area. But I think the best idea you could do is make the commitment. If this is something you're going to do, you need a daily list of individuals that are in foreclosure, that less pendants or notice of default has been sent out. My company of choice is LandVoice. A lot of you are here on the call because they sent out an email. I loves me LandVoice. It's what we use as a company. And I just think that they have the best model out there. I have the contact information for Christoph, my buddy over there. There's his information. Let him know that you participated in the short sale mastery course, and they'll probably have some kind of a special package or deal for you. But you really can't work this effectively if you're not getting a daily list of people that you can contact. Okay, let me answer some questions here, and actually I'll come back to the questions here. Of course, we have some happy agents. I'm not going to, assuming that there was a negative testimonial, which praise God, I haven't had any. I wasn't going, would I even post that? But look, I love the fact that I'm getting testimonials from people that the new agents, yeah, I think it's a given that they're going to love the course. But when they've been through training before, when they were in the trenches before, and they found my course to be beneficial, that's the ultimate compliment right there. All right. Let's go ahead and do this. My course sells for $399. Everything I've been telling you about is $399. It's 5 weeks. I don't believe in going longer than that. I don't like this whole 3 and 4 month deal. It's 5 weeks. That's why I put up there 5 weeks to mastery. 1 session per week via Zoom for 2 hours. All right. Homework assignments in between. You come back. Every session is recorded. You never miss a session. I have agents that have taken the entire thing. They were never live during any of it. I want you there live. Your schedule doesn't allow. You still get the content. That evening, I send out the link and everything. So everything I've mentioned so far is for $399. You guys get $100 off, $100 off. When's the next series starts? Starts next Tuesday, August 18th. Tuesday, August 18th from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. The day before, you get all the information to log on to Zoom and a link to download the workbook. All right. Here's what you need to do. You need to make sure you write down this code. I'm going to give you the website in a second, but write down SSM for Short Sale Mastery 100. That's how you get the $100 off. All right. SSM 100. You're going to go to Short Sales Mastery. That's my website, shortsalesmastery.com. And then in the discount code area, you enter SSM 100, and that gives you the special pricing. Now let's open up to some Q&A. Okay, commission on a short sale is how much? Okay, well, that's a great question. Back in the day, the banks cut our commission all the time. Now, here's the thing. I'm very, very concerned about using percentages because of price fixing and everything else. So I'm not going to refer to it as commission. Let's say I want to list a property and I want to get paid 6 burritos. Okay, I can put that. I can put that I get paid 6 burritos. And then I can offer the other side 3 burritos. And I have to make sure that I disclose in the MLS that this is a short sale subject to third-party approval of price and terms, and that the commission may be subject to adjustment. And if it is, it'll be split 50-50. All right. So we see agents getting paid their full commission all the time. Now, back in the day, I think this was back in 2009, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac issued edicts back then saying, thou shalt pay them their commission. You will get paid their full commission, so long as you didn't list it for more than 6. It clearly says that in the letter. Okay. No, Nubia, that is not correct. I'm sorry. I think that you cannot make absolute statements like they won't pay more than 5%. No, they pay 6% all the time. It depends on a lot of different factors, right? It depends on the lender, well, meaning the investor. And oftentimes it depends on the strength of the negotiator and everything else. But we see agents getting paid their full commission all the time. Now, here's what's not protected. If you're the agent on both sides, good luck. You're the agent on both sides, they'll probably cut your commission to 5 or 4. That happens all the time. What's the workaround on that? Be a team. Okay. If you're in the team, then you can put one person on the team as the listing agent, the other person on the team as a selling agent. Thanks, Walter. You get paid 6 burritos a lot, do you? You know that even on FHA, the edict right there clearly states FHA, you get paid 6 burritos. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. If you make the mistake of being the listing agent and the selling agent, it costs you money. So that one thing alone, that one tip alone could pay for the course, right? So let me see what other questions. Okay, I answer how long the course is. Would the owner of the property have information related to the sale date? Well, normally they're clueless. The sellers are clueless. In fact, when you bring a seller into a meeting, they usually bring a shoebox of all the documents that they never opened. Yeah. So usually you find out sale date by going directly to the courthouse site. Go to your courthouse site, go in the foreclosure area, and that's where the list of dockets are, and you can search for it. Like in Florida right now, there are no sale dates. Everything is completely shut down because we're in a moratorium. But normally you can go in there. A lot of the land voice will also tell you if there's a sale date. IMAP and all that will tell you if there's a sale date. But expect for the seller to be clueless. In fact, if you go knock on their door and say, by the way, the reason I'm here is because I'm an advocate for helping people avoid foreclosure, they're going to tell you, listen, I'm not in foreclosure. My attorney told me that was put on hold. And you're going to be like, really? Because I just pulled this up this morning and it looks like your date is set for next week. Maybe we need to get your attorney on the phone right now. Okay. Thank you, Troy. God bless you. I appreciate that. Yes, there is a benefit to being an agent on both sides. Here's the number one benefit to being the listing agent. When you're the listing agent in a short sale, you are the tail that wags the dog, right? You're the one that is the gatekeeper. You probably will have your own pet investors that you can go ahead and offer the property to. And in many cases, this could be something that becomes an investment opportunity for you as well. Okay, with proper disclosure. So the power in short sales is to become the listing agent. Of course, I teach you how to work with the buyer in the short sale because you're going to cross it. But the real power and the real money is being the listing agent. Okay. Thank you. See, I'm wondering, how do you, Sharon, you asked, I'm wondering how you broach the issue of the bank paying a negotiator. You don't. That's the negotiator's job. The negotiator will tell you right up front, look, these guys here are notorious for not paying my full fee. But I'll give you another tip, okay? Skilled short sale practitioners, you're going to have a negotiation fee disclosure. A negotiation fee disclosure that the buyer must sign. The buyer must sign. This is letting the buyer know ahead of time, look, in the event there's any shortfall on the monies coming to the negotiator, that money's got to come from you. The difference has to come from you. You cannot wait until 2 or 3 weeks before the scheduled closing, and all of a sudden the negotiator is going to the buyer and saying, by the way, I need you to give me some money. How long will someone have access to these classes? Oh, thank you so much, Judy. What I do is this: for when you take the course and I send you the link afterward, it's good for 3 months. All right, so that's plenty of time for you to keep reviewing the information before the link expires. Okay, Camila, thank you so much. I'll see you at the next class. Okay. What is it? You connect every now and then. All right. I think that's pretty much the questions here, unless you have any other ones here. Yeah. I need the name of a negotiator that I'm working on right now. All right. Well, Sharon, what I'll do is when you go to my website, shortsalemastery.com, you can send me an email from there. I'm happy to send you the information on my preferred negotiator. She is amazing. And I'll send the information to any and all that are interested. I don't get any money on this at all, folks. This is not where she's paying me. No. I just want the deal to close, and I believe in her 1,000%. So I want you to have the best possible negotiator. Let me go to the top here and see if there are any other questions. Can you use Land Voice as lead generation? Well, yeah, here's the thing about Land Voice. When you subscribe to them, you either you get the following, right? You not only get pre-foreclosures, you also get FSBOs and you get expireds. So this is the #1 program I'm encouraging all of my agents that want to be prospecting driven. If you want to be prospecting driven, you want to have this list. The question is, how long is the special? Well, the way I look at it, Judy, is I'm not into that. You got to buy right now. The class starts Tuesday. You know, I figured if someone is motivated to get going and wants to get going, they're going to do it by Tuesday, right? What happened to the Equator system? Equator is still being used by a couple of places, but that's typically, again, something that's going to be plugged in primarily with the negotiator. Negotiators are very sensitive about having the agents interact and potentially screwing something up. All right. So I answered the special. Hey, look, you know what I've had? I've had people join me halfway through my course, and they say, listen, if I join you now, do I still get the prior ones? Of course. Yeah, I want you to have that information. Okay. My last short sale was on both sides. I only had to negotiate with the buyer. Okay. I live in Louisiana. Will I benefit from this class? Absolutely. Because again, the process, the premise of taking a short sale listing is universal. It has nothing to do with states. The only thing that's state specific are the contracts you use, of course. You use a different listing agreement than we do here in Florida. And you have to become familiar with how foreclosures work in your area, right? Aside from that, those are the things I always say. That becomes the agent's responsibility. What I'm teaching you is 100% applicable to any and all states. Keep in mind, when I was traveling and teaching short sales for a living, I basically visited almost every single state that had an issue. Can you as an agent be the buyer? No. No, because what happens is yes and no. If you're the agent acting as the buyer, they won't pay you your commission. So can you technically be the buyer? Yes, but they won't pay you your commission. Okay. So if you're okay with not making the money, but typically what will happen is they'll let somebody else do it. You have to be very careful about arm's length scenarios. Okay. That is one of the biggest issues that agents have. And that is they sell the property to someone that is not arm's length to the other parties in the transaction. That can go ahead and work to you. The question of how long it takes to close a short sale, guys, it's all over the place. See, there's factors we can't control. When you have skilled real estate agents working with the seller, you got a cooperative seller, you have a great negotiator, you have a decent bank that they're negotiating with, you can expect to get approval within 30 to 45 days, right? But this is a situation, and I'm running out of time, but I want to get to this. Here's one of the problems. Does my negotiator work nationwide? Absolutely. Because again, the process is the same. When you are an agent, you need to have the vast majority of the information that your negotiator is going to need. You should get the lion's share of that information at the listing. At the listing. What truly stinks is when an agent is clueless about short sales, they take a listing, they're unprepared, they get a contract, and now the clock is ticking, and the negotiator is saying, but I need this, I need this, I need this, and the agent hasn't procured any of this stuff. So everything speeds up when you know what you're doing. But of course, there are factors that are always beyond our control. A properly executed short sale, you should be able to close it in 2 or 3 months, assuming it's closable, right? There's factors there. Some normal deals take that long anyway, okay? All right, Nubia, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. All right, folks, so listen, I think I covered most of the questions here. Is this only on Tuesdays? Yes. The way I have this particular series scheduled, it's on 5 consecutive Tuesdays starting with next week, but each session is recorded. That evening, you get the recording, so you have access to all the information. There is no missed content. Yes, the information applies to all states. This is not state specific when it comes to the short sale process. The short sale process is the same across the country. What varies are how states handle foreclosures. Okay. All right, folks. Listen, thank you so very much for being with me here. I'll send the information out hopefully by later today, tomorrow at the latest. A question was asked, do you get a graduation certificate? Absolutely. You can use it on your social media and you can promote the heck out of it. And look, I hope that you engage. And I hope at the very minimum, when you listen to someone that is in trouble, you at least refer them to someone that's willing to help them. And they get help, that agent makes some money, and you get a referral fee. So everybody wins in that situation. The website address is Short Sales Mastery. Let me go back here. There it is, shortsalesmastery.com. And then you go ahead and enter SSM 100. If the recording worked, because this is the first time I use this platform, Webinar Jam, I'm loving it, but it's the first time. If the recording worked like it should, I will be happy to send it out. Okay. All right, folks. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you. Take care. Again, I'll send everything out by tomorrow at the latest, assuming. If I don't have the recording, I'm still going to send out the PDF of the slides. All right, folks. Thank you so much. That concludes the class. Take care. Bye-bye.